You can use a regular pencil or a mechanical, but it does need to be done very lightly, each of these steps that we're going to do. Okay, and I'm going to just go ahead and draw my square. If you cannot see from where you're sitting, this is a good time to come on up and sit closer. Okay, and again, I'm doing a square that is 6 inches by 6 inches. Okay. At this point, can you please put your ruler up so I can see if you are still drawing your square? Okay. Up high, I can't see those of you guys who are still working. Please put your... Alright, I'll give you guys another moment to catch up. Alright. Okay, the next step we're going to do is we're going to go on to this next square. So if you're following along on the worksheet, we're doing this next square here. How we're going to do our measurements is first we're going to find the middle of our square. What's half of 6? 3. So 3 is the middle. So just put a mark on there so we know where the middle's at. This is the 3-inch mark. Okay. And we're going to break this side down even further. We're going to break this up in half one more time. So in between 1 and 3, what's half of 1 and 3? 1.5. 1.5, okay. And put one more mark in between this last section, 1.5. So if you were to measure this, each of these sections would be 1.5. Okay? So the first thing is to divide it in half, which is 3. And then you're going to just split these two in half. Okay, so you have 3 sections. And you want to find the other side as well, the halfway mark, so we have that. It's good to have these guidelines actually all the way around so you know where the middle of your square is. Okay, I'm just going to kind of put that. So all the dots I just made are midway points. This is 3 inches. This is 3 inches. Our whole entire square is 6. Okay, so from this top left corner, you are going to draw our first diagonal line. Okay, you're going to do this very, very lightly. I'm drawing it dark so you guys can see it. Oh, God, I already messed up, guys. Sorry, don't draw that line yet. You're drawing this to the first dot that you made on your paper. So you're connecting the corner to the 1.5 mark. Okay? Just like this. Okay, very lightly. Because if you make a mistake just like I did, because everyone makes mistakes, you can erase it and not have to see your marks under it. And the next line that you're going to be drawing is going to be from the midpoint over here, which is at the 3-inch mark, and you're going to connect it to this 1.5 mark down here. So you should have 2 diagonal lines going across your page, just like this, okay? So if you're all following along, you should be done with this next box, okay? Put your rulers up in the air if you still need more time, okay? All right. The next step, what we're going to do is we are going to divide this section into, we want 4 sections. We want the first section to be the biggest, and then it's going to go down in size from there. So let's go ahead and make our first section about, I would say about 2 inches. Now you don't have to like measure these perfect. I would just put little marks just to kind of create sections for each finger. All you want to make sure though is that this first section is bigger than this one should be bigger than this one, and the last one should be the smallest. So you kind of want to go in gradation from size. But again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just make sure your first box is the biggest. So I'm going to start off with like a 2-inch section. Then my next one's about 1.5. Then my next one's probably a little bit shorter than 1.5. Then my last one's about 1 inch. Okay. So again, this one's like 2. This one is about 1.5. This one's smaller than 1.5, and this one's about 1. Okay, but like I said, just kind of eyeball it. You just want to make sure they go down in size. And you're going to connect this line from this top section to that bottom line there. Don't go past, okay? You want to keep it within that diagonal rectangle we just made. I'm going to go ahead and draw my lines up here. I'm going to draw my last box here. Again, 4 diagonals. Doesn't have to be perfectly measured, but it should be stepping up in size with your first one being the biggest and your last one being the smallest. Yeah. And if you're just really, and you want to be more precise, again, I did this one about 2 inches. This one was about 1.5. This one was like a little bit smaller than 1.5, and this last one was 1. Now, again, what simple shapes are we using right now?
Cylinders and squares.
Where are the cylinders at? We haven't used it yet, but we will be using, yes, cylinders. We're using rectangles, and we're going to be using squares. So we're taking these simple shapes to help us guide our hand. All right, can everyone put their papers up so I can see where we're at? Let me see your papers. Put them like flat so I can see it. Don't wave it like a flag. All right, I only see 3 people so far. Please put them up. I want to see where we're at. Okay, some of us are still not ready. Okay, I'm going to give you guys some more time to finish drawing in your guidelines. Okay. All right, very good. You're almost there? Yeah, good. Just draw those lines up. Okay, good. Good. Can I see your box? Where's your lines? Okay, you need to catch up. You need to be drawing it along with this. Okay? Alright. Can I see yours? On the back, can I see yours? Everyone over here? Damari, can I see? Okay, perfect. Okay, good. Yep. No, that's perfect. You did it. Oh, just make this one, erase this, and put it closer. Okay. Here we go, guys. You're all ready to go on. Now the next step, what we're going to be doing, I want you guys to just realize that when we're doing our foreshortened finger, it's going to look like we're drawing sections. It's not going to look like we're drawing sections, but we are. So when we're drawing our, remember our fingers are cylinders, and they're in 3 sections, right? We have our top part, our middle part, and then we had our last section here. So when you're keeping in mind that these cylinders, this is like the first section of your finger, This is the second section of your finger that is in the middle, and then the third one that's attached to your palm, that's the third. So what we're going to be doing here is this circle that we're drawing for the pointing is actually the first portion of your finger, okay? It's your first section of your finger because the third part is down here, okay? Now, there's a couple different ways to draw foreshortened fingers. So there's you could have the top of your fingers showing, kind of how we're drawing it here, where this is the first section, second, this would be the second section, and then the last section would be kind of attached to your knuckle. That would be the third. Or there's another way you could draw it, and this would be the first section. Then you would have something like this where you would have the second section, like if you were kind of holding it like this. Okay, you see this is more of like kind of this kind of angle. And then the last section would be down here, kind of attached to your palm. Okay, so this is kind of if your hand was like this. But I do want you to keep in mind that we're still drawing each of these sections. They're just kind of smaller and they're more circular than just doing a straight line like this. Okay, so let's do that. Let's draw a circle, nice and big. Now remember how we talked about drawing circles? You want to go nice and light till you get that perfect one. Don't sit there and try to take your time drawing the perfect one. You want to just do a bunch of little ones and erase the ones you don't need. Okay, after all, that's kind of how artists do circles. They erase what they don't need and they have little sketch marks, and that's fine. Okay, and don't go all the way to the very edge right here. And if you did, just kind of move it in a little bit. You don't need to go all the way to the edge. Just kind of maybe like that. Okay, and I'm going to kind of darken up my lines. I kind of like how this is looking, so I'm going to just kind of close up my circle. Alright. Okay, so I've got my circle on there. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to draw our foreshortened finger, and we're going to create it to look like there's a fingernail on the edge as well. Okay, and the next step to that is connecting the bottom of the circle to this same circle, and you're bringing it up just like this, but the bottom of your circle is still going to be part of that first circle you drew. Okay. And you're going to do that one more time, okay guys? Go ahead and draw in one more circle connecting to the bottom there. So this is essentially like the tip of our finger right here coming at us. This is the tip that we're drawing. The next portion is the top of our fingernail. This second portion right here is this section. So this is like the first section, this is like the second section, and the third section will be coming up and attaching to our knuckle. Okay, put your rulers up if you need more time for your circles. Okay, I'll give you guys another moment or so. Okay, now let's draw our fingernail in. So, this first line, this first circle, this small one, this is going to be the very tip of our fingernail, okay? So go ahead and kind of darken up the top portion here, this little arc. Okay, and you're going to connect a line going back, just like this, and that is going to be your fingernail. So essentially, if these lines were lighter, it would just look like your fingernail. And you'd create the rest with shading, okay? You guys all have your fingernails. Elbow, fingernails. Okay, catch up, Elbow. I need you to. Okay, so we're gonna draw in a couple more guidelines before we move on, so we can go ahead and draw the whole shape of the hand. Okay, so right in the corner of your, right under your finger. Let me zoom out here. I need you to, we're going to draw a line to this corner, but we got to make a rectangle first for our corner, okay? Go ahead and draw a rectangle about, let's see, I would go 1.25, okay? So right after right in between 1.5, there's another line in there. Let me show you what that looks like. Right here, right in between 1.5, this line, this section right here, in between 1 and 1.5, this line, that's how long we're going to make our rectangle, okay? So go ahead and make sure don't draw the rectangle all the way to the bottom of this line. You want to leave a little bit of space, okay, before you start drawing it. I would leave about this 1/4 inch. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and draw this line up. We're drawing a rectangle. You can go about, let's see, how long is this? Go about 4 inches away from the edge. So make your rectangle about 4 inches wide, and the height will be about 1.25. So right before the 1/2 inch mark of the 1. I'll give you guys time to catch up. So it's just a rectangle, essentially. Measurements, if measurements are a little confusing, you can just go ahead and draw in a rectangle. Just make sure it doesn't touch all the way to the bottom.
How long is the rectangle?
I made mine about 4 inches. Okay, just go past that middle line. Because if you have your finger kind of pointed, it's going to go past the middle of your fingers, so somewhere around here. This is going to be the guide for a thumb. And then once you have your rectangle, find the halfway mark of your rectangle. So you could just eyeball it. I'm going to just go ahead and say that looks like that's halfway between this and this. Doesn't have to be exact. And I'm going to go ahead and find that halfway mark in here. Those are going to be used for a next shape we're drawing. You're going to use those 2 marks, the 2 halfway marks, and create a triangle. Right in between. Just like that. On the paper, we're pretty much, we're right here drawing this rectangle. I kind of did the fingernail a little bit too. I kind of got excited about the fingernail. Kind of started a little too early, but we're right here drawing this square, okay? Rectangle, and we're adding this triangle in there. So if you're kind of lost, that's where we're at. And we got to draw this line connecting from the, we're going to draw a line from right under where your fingernail is, kind of like that, to the corner. Just like that. To the corner of your rectangle. Okay. Put your roller up if you need more time for those rectangles and triangles. Okay. And there's a little line here, but I'm not sure what that's for. Okay. Here we go. We're going to go ahead and draw on our knuckles. So if your hand is pointing like this, you'll notice some of your guys' knuckles are a lot bigger than others. Mine are pretty non-existent. I don't really have a knuckly hand. My hand's a little chubby, a lot more skin and fat than knuckle. So, but some of you guys might have bigger ones than others. Everyone's hands are different. So let's go ahead and start with drawing our first knuckle in. And we're going to kind of bring this out a little bit. Right here, this is going to be our first section of our hand. Our knuckle's going to come up to the top of this line. It's going to square off on top, and then you're going to bring your knuckle down, and it's going to touch that first line that we made in that box. Okay, go ahead and bring this line up, touch the top of your box, bring the line down to touch this first section. It's almost like a U, or upside down U, but you're giving it some character. It's like a little hilltop. Okay? Once you hit this line, you're going to go ahead and bring it up, and we're going to do our next knuckle, okay? We're going to bring up our knuckle. Are you ready? You gotta, for each finger, you're gonna just square off the knuckle, kind of flat on top, and bring it back down to hit the next line. And then each one now from here, we're gonna go a little bit lower. Just kind of lower it. And this last one, you're gonna kind of just bring it just like that. Don't go all the way to the end with your pinky. Okay, I'll just leave them like that. And now we're going to go ahead and, can you put your rulers up if you're still drawing your knuckles? Okay, I'll give you guys a little bit more time. Let's see how those knuckles are coming out. Auburn, I need you to keep drawing. Wake up. Keep going. You have to turn this in for a grade. Keep going. Alright, so go ahead and draw your knuckles in. And then you can just do the box after, okay? The box. Can I see your knuckles over here? Okay. What's yours coming along? Okay, nice. Okay. I don't think I saw your guys'.
Nah, you good.
Alright guys, so now what we're going to do is we're going to bring that pinky finger down and we're going to bring it almost to the very bottom of the line, but not all the way. Okay. Now your pinky has a little bit of, once your hand's kind of crunched like this, you have a little bit of a fat here. Just kind of get in that shape. Okay. And then you're going to bring this line up. Just kind of make it a little like more natural looking. You don't want like a super straight line because there are some curves. Okay. Give it some characteristic, some style. Okay, and then you're going to do the same thing for each finger. You're going to bring it down, just kind of, now each finger's going to go kind of down right below this guideline that we made. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this line down, and then I'm going to kind of do the same thing. You don't want this line to go all the way up. Okay, you just want it to, this might be a little low, but that's all right. And I'm going to go ahead and draw in my last finger. Okay, just connect it here. Now the part that we're drawing here, this is the second portion right here, or sorry, the third portion of your hand. So this is like the third section right here. That's the part that is right here, connected to your knuckle. Okay. And when you draw this last line up, you want to make sure, let me lighten this up so you guys can see the shape that I make. Make sure when you bring this up, you kind of connect it to this line that you made right there. It's going to connect. Okay? And once you have this is kind of like when you're designing your hand, you would add details in here. For example, like on the bottom here, these would be the knuckles. So all the lines you would see on your knuckles. This is something that you could add detail about. Okay, maybe on the top you would have a couple lines or detail. You could even have like little, I don't know, maybe some people have hairy fingers, little hairs. Okay. Okay, once you have your fingers down, we're going to draw the side of your hand here, your palm. Okay, so right where this mark is, you're going to kind of bring out, there's going to be a little fat here that is created when you have your fingers kind of folded in such a way. It's going to come out, and it's going to curve back in, and now we're going to create our thumb. Okay. Our thumb has two different knuckles. We have one knuckle here on the corner, and we have one knuckle here. Okay? So we're going to draw here is going to be our first knuckle. So bring that out and curve it in. This is our first knuckle. It's okay if you go out of the box just a little bit. Okay? Where we made this second mark, this is that second knuckle here. Okay? That's that second knuckle. So you're going to just go ahead and keep following along that line. It's just kind of our guideline. Okay? And I would do a little curve here and bring it up to your box. Kind of bring that all the way over. And when you have your thumb folded, there's a little bit of there's a line in here that your hand creates. Make sure you get that line, okay? It's going to kind of show that your finger's folded over. I'll give you guys a moment to draw that in. And of course, you can draw in your knuckle, lines for your knuckle. There's a lot of detail that goes on your thumb. And your fingernail that is in between here, if you look at your section of your finger, the fingernail is actually about half of the entire section of that thumb. So once you have your thumb in here, you can kind of find the midway point. Do maybe like a little parentheses kind of shape. 2 parentheses, kind of bring out your fingernail. This is obviously a little bit more cartoonish, okay, but this is something you could definitely make more realistic if you wanted to. And at this point, we're almost finished, okay? There's only a couple more steps that you guys would have to do to kind of finish this drawing before you would add detail or shading. And again, this is like everyone's first time kind of drawing this, so everyone's hands might not look as good as you want it to look. But this is just another way to draw a hand that I want you guys to know about. Alright. The last few steps that you need to do is we need to draw the second section, okay, of your finger. The second portion of your finger, which is in the middle. Your first section on your other 3 fingers are kind of tucked in. You don't see them. They're tucked into your hand like that. And we see the top part, and we're going to see a little bit of the second section here. So what you need to do is you need to draw a line coming down and tucking it underneath your thumb. Kind of like that, okay? And then you just do your last one and kind of close it off there. Just like that. And this area would be shaded because if you do have your fingers like that, they're not getting hit by that light. And if you were drawing this and shading it, this is obviously not the proper way I want you guys to shade, but you would shade under here. You know, you would give these some value. In between the fingers that are overlapping, you would probably have a darker shadow underneath them. You would also have a shadow underneath this finger, because if it's overlapping, you would have a shadow somewhere over here from your other fingers. Okay, and you would have some value from your finger on your hand. What time did we get out of here? 1:26, right? Okay, thank you. And the last thing you need to do is pretty much you just draw in a little line here to draw in that palm. That is essentially how you do a foreshortened hand. Okay? Pointing. So at this point, go ahead and put your names on your paper. First and last name. Please write period 5 on there. Go ahead and pass those up. I'm going to collect those. Tomorrow, you guys are kind of going to decide how you want to draw your final hands. I'll show you one other quick technique, and we're going to get started on our final project, okay, because we're going to run out of time otherwise. All right. So how did your guys' hands turn out?
Bad.
Bad? All right, some of them look pretty good. You guys like this way or the open hand better? Open hand? Go ahead and pass up your papers. Anyone else from this row have the worksheet? If you could please put the worksheets back underneath the tray, do not take those. The next class is going to use it, and then you'll use them if you need to borrow, if you need to look at it for any other techniques when you're doing your final project. Okay, you're more than welcome to take a picture of it. You can also get it online on the website. I'm going to also have this tutorial posted on the website as well, so if you want to watch it again, at home and kind of draw along with it, you can do that as well.